Give it a minute. Okay, and it looks like we're live. Hey everybody. So this is Ashes to Energy, and we wanted to do a video on protections and boundaries. This is Mandy and Marvin. Sorry, I got to point in the opposite direction. Mandy and Marvin. Because you have to do reverse. Yay, cameras. Uh, and yeah, I'm just going to have Mandy go ahead and share her experience, and then Marvin will share his technique, and then our boundaries. Is it boundaries we're talking about? Yeah, boundaries. We're talking about boundaries first, and then protection. I am so ready for this. I am so prepared. All right, so Mandy's going to go first, and then Marvin, and then I'll share my shiz, and then we'll go from there. So go ahead, Mandy.
All right, so the reason we're talking about boundaries and protection is because you need to establish your boundaries and respect your own boundaries. And once you have that established, you'll definitely feel a lot more confident. So, one of the things we all connected on was once we were more confident in ourselves and had those boundaries solidified, um, spirits respected us and our boundaries a lot more too. So some of the boundaries, I guess examples, um, would be, for me, respect is a big one. It's more important to me than being loved. So if I feel disrespected, they'll know it. They'll know it's not accepted. And if they can't respect it, they don't deserve a spot in my life. That goes for family too. Just because they're family doesn't mean they deserve a spot in your life, right? And that's actually been a really big one for me. Spiritually, that's actually helped a lot. And another thing that's helped a lot is setting boundaries of where. So I'm an empath and a medium, despite my efforts and willingness. So I have visitors. I have visitors like show up. And so Janice has actually helped me with that a lot. So if they show up uninvited, I have to set a boundary. I have to let them know when it's okay. So I don't like doing that stuff when I'm alone here with my son. So they need to come back or I'm just not ready at this time.
Business hours.
Hmm?
Business hours, basically.
Yes,
You're giving
yes,
them business hours.
hours.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I hear you. Do it. That's awesome.
Because when Janice and I met, I was living in a townhouse that was haunted by this fucking mean old lady. And every time I would go into the guest room, that was her room, I would be getting yelled at a lot. And I didn't understand why. And so, Janice kind of helped me realize that I had that gift. And then we realized that, it's been happening to me a lot. I didn't realize what I was picking up on or experiencing. So those two have been really big ones for me. And I guess I could talk about the other ones if they come up from YouTube.
That's good.
Definitely have to say, I mean, whether it's even spiritual or even people in your life, you do need to set up those boundaries. And you have to make sure that you are upholding what you're putting in place, not just say that, oh, I'm going to do this and then not do it. And like you said, I have a family as well. Just because there's that blood connection, it doesn't mean that they're good for you. Sometimes those are closer hurt more because they're supposed to be closer and more connected to you. Yet there's a disconnect sometimes. But you definitely need to put up that, that this is what I will tolerate. This is what's okay. This is not okay with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's best to do it from the beginning. That way, if there's something that happens later, it's like, I told you this wasn't okay. they can't be later on saying like, oh, you never said anything, or you never indicated that this bothers you.
Yeah.
Then the same thing goes spiritually. When for me, I don't see them as much. It's very rare when I see them, but I feel it more. So when that happens, is usually for me. Um, Usually for me, I'm like, no, you're not welcome here. Bye. And it's just like almost like a push. If something comes in, it just exits my home.
Yeah.
But for the most part, just by doing that, for me at least, that helps to let them know that you don't belong here. Move on.
That's actually pretty good. I like that. Is there anything else you wanted to add, or you're good, Marvin?
I'll add more as we go along.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it's been weird. like I'm just gonna say that flat out. It's been weird because here's the thing. I've noticed this for a lot of empaths, that you kind of grow up in a family where boundaries are not that common, or you're taught to disregard boundaries for yourself. It's what?
Because it's impolite.
Yeah, like I'm not saying everybody's like that, but I noticed that a lot of people that are empaths or have, medium like gifts, or HSPs, highly sensitive people, I've noticed that it's like, yes, they can feel the environment, but it's almost like as they've grown up, they've been told that they're too much, they're too sensitive, they're too this, they're too that, and that how their feelings are invalid, but how everybody else is feeling around them is fine. And that you kind of have to, like, you almost grow up with like, I'm not allowed to have boundaries. Like, that's almost a weird kind of mindset that's ingrained in you. And it takes a while to figure that out. I didn't know until I was 36 that I could have boundaries. And that was like, and it was the weirdest thing, because one of my friends who had been a medium for like most of their life was like, that you can have boundaries. And I was like, what? It was an option. What? And she's like, and you can change them at any time. What? Like, it was just like completely out of my, I never considered this. I'd never entertained this thought. I just thought, like, this is life. These people, these things just come in and screw with me, and I have to deal with it. Like, yay. There has been one time where I did set up a boundary, but I didn't know I was setting up a boundary, and it was with a shadow person, and it was with my ex, Wyatt. I'm just gonna say it because fuck him, it doesn't matter. My ex Wyatt, and he was living in this apartment, and like there was this shadow person that was like haggard, and he would appear at the side of the bed, and this was for months, like 6 or 7 months. Every time I spent the night over, he would show up. And like the thing would like creep me out, and I wouldn't, and people would be like, oh, it's what is it? Sleep paralysis? No, I could move my eyes, I could move my hands, I could move my arms. I couldn't sit up because it would sit on my chest or like do this. And like I could feel it sucking out my air. It was the worst freaking thing ever. And it did it for almost 6 or 7 months. And I had talked to one of my friends about it, and she was like, you can just tell it to go fuck off. And I'm like, what? And like I was like, oh yeah, I've never thought it, like, and like I show up one of these days, and she's like, no, just tell it that it's, that it's not okay. And like one of these days, like I went into the room, and it was light out, daytime, and I was like, look, you're not going to interact with me anymore. You're not going to screw with me. You have no rights. Like, and I was just like went off on like the thing that I couldn't see, but I could feel. And like, it showed up that night, but it didn't touch me. And I was like, get the fuck out, and then it showed up a couple more times, but it couldn't interact with me anymore. So, and I was like, oh, really? This is a thing. You can just tell it no, and it's not allowed. And I'm like, the fuck, and then I forgot it, evidently. So yeah, but no, I agree that it is really important to be steadfast in your boundaries. And it's hard because when you care about somebody, you communicate to them, this is what I'm okay with, this is what I'm not okay with. And they'll be like, yeah, sure. And then they totally blow past that boundary. And And then I've also had it where they've said, if you care about me, this would not be that important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love the face that I'm getting from you guys because you've been told something similar, and it sucks because you get like you're manipulated into having to be open, and it's sad, and like now I have a better perspective of like, well, no, if you care for me, you'll respect this. And that's as simple as that. Like, I respect your boundaries. I try not to do these things. And when I do mess up, I'll take ownership. Like, I'm sorry, I screwed up. I did this, my bad. Like, I'll take acknowledgement of that. But what I noticed is with some people, they won't take ownership of their shit. And that is a big freaking red flag for me of, nope, this person doesn't deserve to be in my life because I've given them the benefit of the doubt. I know every now and then people forget things. And at least if they forget, but they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. And they're trying to correct it and showing you that they're correcting it, that's speaking volumes. But if they're just like, I'm sorry, but they keep doing it over and over again and they're not trying to correct it, then obviously it's just words and not deeds for them. So, but no, I do agree with you guys. It's weird because it's hard at first to be firm in those boundaries. And it's almost like habit to fall back into being more open and being accepting of the bad behavior. And you have to maintain it on your own too. Like, you have to like check in with yourself of, is this okay? Is this okay? Is this okay? So, cause I do a lot of second guessing on my shit. I don't know if you guys do too, but like, did I blow this out of proportion? Did I take this too personal? Yeah. So, but yeah. So yeah, I agree with you guys that, yeah, boundaries are imperative. And that's actually, I have a sigil in my bedroom that is for that line, is that my boundaries are imperative. And I have it a couple different places around the house where the sigil is at to remind me that this is important and I need to stick firm to this. And that has been super helpful in keeping up my protection.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And it's my favorite. I love that. Like, it came to me while I was doing that whole Unstuck 2020 thing with Summer. But it was like a lot of journaling and a lot of writing, and then like getting to that aha moment and why it was so important to stick with that. But yeah. And it's cool. Like, that's the other thing we should probably talk about is sigils, because holy cow, there's a lot of power behind those things when you make it yourself. So yeah. But like, yeah, so protection. Mandy, what do you do for protection, since we're already on that? Yeah.
Well, I do a lot of candle work, but I'm a witch, so it's kind of something that I've always done since I was little, actually, since I got a hold of a lighter, you know.
Second nature.
So it was just kind of there already, you know, lighting a candle, and setting intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And I do the Indian method. So I'm all about just keeping the energy clear in the home.
Mm-hmm.
So the salt and pepper thing, I wrote the measurements down and I forgot where I put it. But I might be able to find it.
Sometimes you have to modify it as time goes on. So like, because she said tablespoon, and I was like, holy shit, that's a lot. And I use
I mean, and you and I are both Italian, so it's like until my ancestor tells me to stop.
Right?
You know,
yeah, exactly. That's when you stop. That's when it's enough garlic. It's never enough garlic. It's never enough. But yeah.
I do have amulets that I use, so you can set your intention, consecrate those, and leave them by the entrances. I use bells too.
Same here.
Yeah,
they're great.
Yeah, I use bells on the doors, which kind of works out right now because the wreath is on the door too. So, but yeah, it's been a lot of candle work for me.
Interesting. Okay, I have to ask: do you use like virgin candles when you start out?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Unless it's something I'm working on repeatedly with the same candle, unless it's like a multiple day kind of thing, then
yeah,
it's typically just white candles for protection, and you can, if you have candle holders that you can place by your doors, you can place one by each of your doors.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I can see some people like probably like carving stuff into them. So
Mhm.
yeah, or I've seen it where people have anointed it with oil, but obviously you don't want something flammable because bad. Whoosh. I mean, unless you're trying to start a fire and burn down your house. I mean, hey, well, my judge. Yeah.
Sometimes you just gotta handle it.
Some people just want to see the world burn. But yeah, no, that's pretty cool. What about you, Marvin?
It's a few things that I do, but also it's funny though because I didn't realize it what it meant when I was a kid, because it's just something like, oh, mom does this and dad does that, whatever, part of life.
And you don't really think about it. You're like, oh, okay, this is a thing,
And then it wasn't until much later on when things started to happen that I would ask my mom, like, oh, well, that took a lot of courage to first off to even talk about, like, hey mom, I'm seeing something, or I'm feeling something, I'm not
right?
crazy.
Please
But
don't
it was
commit
nice
me.
to, yeah, no, but it was nice to see was like understanding, and then she told me some of the stuff that the family does, and then I'm like, oh, wait a minute,
Oh yeah.
that's why you have this, that's why you do that. It's been there. I thought it was just you doing stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the things is the aloe vera plant, and we hang it by the at the entrance and the exit of your home,
Yeah.
and it's to keep any bad energy, any people that may want to bring something ill to you in your
So
life.
it's almost like evil eye protection then, is what it's treated
Hmm.
as. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And then you pretty much again you just hang it by the door on top of it, and then um, if if the plant is flourishing, it means that you're there's pretty much no negative and nothing negative around, and you more than likely will have a a good year. But as the plant is withering away, it's still doing its job, but it means that there's something or someone that is wishing or wanting to get into your sanctuary pretty much to get to you.
Yeah.
And once it withers away, you just gotta replace it.
Yeah, you use like the actual plant, not the stalk. So he gets like little small ones is what I've noticed. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. It'll be this small one with the roots and everything. So in that way you can just like mist it with water, once a month or something. Because they'll last a while too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but we do that. Another thing that I didn't even know what it was until like earlier this year was when somebody is sick and they they're ill for longer than what normally they should be. Let's say like a fever or whatnot. You grab a bowl, fill it with salt, and then you put it underneath the bed, and that
That's
soaks up all the bad
it's
energy and
supposed to
whatever else is going on. The
absorb it. Yeah, I've heard
Yeah,
of that. Yeah. Like it's a cool, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but yeah, I've heard of the salt in the water but you put it underneath the bed and yeah,
yeah,
interesting.
but the way we do it is you don't even put water. It's just salt.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you just put that underneath the bed.
Interesting.
And another thing that I learned too was, as many people know, that if you break a mirror, it's like 7 years of bad luck.
Yeah.
One way that what you can do to protect yourself from that is that you gather all the broken pieces and you put it in water, like submerged, and you leave it there for 7 days and 7 nights, and that's the counter spell for the bad luck. So it
Interesting.
nullifies that, and then you can throw away the mirror after that.
Interesting.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Hmm.
Good Lord. So protection. I've just like, as time has gone on, I figured out that my family's been doing protection up the wazoo for most of their life and not knowing that's the fuck they were doing. Like my dad's mother had Kachina dolls all over her house.
Oh
And
my God.
that was her way of protecting, because Kachina dolls are supposed to be for protection.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like they were all over the place and I couldn't figure it out. And like I just thought it was, oh, she was obsessed with Native American culture. Yay, you know, whatever. Because when people move out to Arizona, they lose their freaking minds. They're like, oh yeah, let's do all this Native American stuff. And I'm like, you know, it's just Southwestern motif. And you're like, yeah, this is what I grew up with. This is just life. But no, it's because like she had it for protection. But I didn't realize it until like way after she had passed, because like when I reflect back on the house, I was like, wow, I really hated her fucking closet. There's a shadow person there. I really hated the living room. There was just this smoky thing that would chill out up there on the ceiling. So that's what she did for protection. The candle magic, I've done some of that, but that was when I was younger. And yeah, I can see what you mean. Like and you're just naturally called to some things, like without knowing why you want this specific color or this specific wording to say when you do it. I get that. I use rocks. I use rocks a lot. I love rocks. They're pretty, they're shiny. But one of the things that I like to do is use the white onyx and lay it across the entrance and the back doors of my house, because I've noticed that things that have dark energy have a hard time crossing over that line. So people like how the Winchester boys treat salt. It's kind of like how I treat the white onyx. And you can get it like really, really cheap. Like it's like that white shiny rock that you can buy at the Dollar Tree or whatever. And it's like a big bag of it. Yeah, super cheap. And it does its job. It's pretty awesome. I've used Apache tears. I've used black tourmaline and smoky quartz. The other thing that I've started using is pyrite. Because it's that fool's gold. And what it's been known to do is it actually reflects the energy back at who's ever pushing it towards you. So if somebody's pushing anything that doesn't belong in your direction, it's a good protection stone. And I have that normally, like anybody that's been in our house, you'll see them when you come in. They're in certain spots. And yeah, like I use those. I've tried doing the aloe vera thing. It's hard to get a hold of aloe vera out here, which is weird. Yeah. It's weird. I'm in California in the high desert. You figure that would be super easy. No, like it's like I almost have to outsource it or try to go to Arizona and buy some. So I don't know.
Over here, I can just go outside and grab some.
I know.
The conference.
Yeah. Roses grow like crazy out here though. Like anywhere down the neighborhood, like there's just rose bushes everywhere and they're blooming and it's like, all right, cool. But yeah, that's and then the other thing I've done is where I meditate. That was my new thing, is that I meditate when I wake up in the morning, and I actually like see a protection barrier. And I've done like a 7-layer barrier of protection on me, on the house, on the animals, on the goofball that I married. Like, yeah, I do that. And what I say is that nothing, yeah, the only thing that can interact with our energy is in the highest and best good, because if it's not, then it shouldn't interact with the energy. And that's been really helpful. And because for a while there, it sucked being spied on and feeling like you're being watched and feeling like it's, I don't know. I know I sound crazy when I say it like that, but I don't know. Like when you've dated somebody who has other gifts as well, it's almost like you have no privacy anymore. And it's hard. It's very hard to not only break the chain between you two, because that connection is so strong, but you also don't want them feeding off of you anymore. Cause I've noticed that like, it's almost like they're an energy vampire, and they're like, and they just feed and feed and feed and feed, and they can leech on you. And it's, that's why the cord cutting is so important too, when you end a relationship. And it's not just like romantic. It can also be friendships. It can also be coworkers. It can be whatever, sometimes there's an attachment there and you just don't want the attachment to be, go ahead and sever it. But yeah, yeah, Sorry.
And it's so hard to let go of relationships like that because you feel seen.
Yeah. You
They
feel
see
understood.
you.
Yeah, like
They-
completely
they-
understood.
Yeah.
Because like I'm not saying it's a curse to be gifted. It's just a lot of work. I guess that's the best way to put it. Cause there's a lot of effort that you put in. And I like personally, I got like Marvin and I had been friends for 5 years before I finally told him about spiritual shit. And the funny thing is that like we could have been having that conversation sooner. He had, and the thing is that, normally when you're gifted, you're attracted to people that are gifted. Like you just, your friends, you naturally just go towards them somehow. And it's like, you figure your antenna would tell you no. And it's like, did I tell you about this crazy shit that's going on? And you not like want to lock me up or stop talking to me?
I think that's what it was for years. It's the whole like not having somebody really to talk about stuff like that at the time. So it's like, yeah, she's gonna think I'm a fucking lunatic, and then not like that, So.
Yeah, it was funny because like I don't know how I just started telling him stuff. Like I was like, I feel this, and he's like, and like I was expecting him to be like, no, but he just sat there and he starts sharing some other experiences, and I'm like, oh my god, he is gifted. Fuck. All right, cool. This is not like, yeah, but it was like, oh my god, I'm not alone. It was. It's one of those, I'm not alone. Okay, and it was because something inside me kept telling me I need to talk to him. And it was weird because he was feeling the same thing. He's like, I need to tell her this. But it was still that hesitation because because you're afraid of, being judged or being mocked or whatever it is, because you're kind of taught not to talk about this because it's like some kind of self-preservation and, not wanting to get locked up or be put on medication.
Finally started talking about it to my mom. That took a lot.
It did. Yeah.
But then she just listened to me, and then that's when she started telling me like, okay, you need to do this. People, wait up. Okay, sorry. You need to do this. You need to do that. This is what this means. So I'm like, oh, okay. So she doesn't think I'm crazy. We could have talked about this a while back.
Right.
You're like, thanks, Mom.
Yeah, right.
So it's like,
could have saved me some time.
Yeah.
That's awesome that you're able to talk to her. See, because my mom, like, some of the gifts came forward when I was younger because, one of my imaginary friends was a dead dude and I didn't know it was a dead dude. And like I talked about the construction worker that died making the house next door, but I didn't know he was a construction worker. And like Joe got upset because Janice is talking about the dead person. Did you say something? And my mom's like, no, why would I tell her about that? You dumbass. So, and, because like who would tell a 6-year-old about that? Nobody, or a 4-year-old about that? Nobody. So like, yeah. And like my other friends, my mud friends were people that had been burned alive. And like, I had both extremes there where I had like the positive experience with Fred or George or whatever his name was. It was a really common name. And then I had the negative experience with the people that had been burned alive because they were assholes. They tried to get me in trouble so much or hurt myself. Like they were just horrible. So it was just like, and it was, don't talk about it. Like I just learned not to talk about it because it's like, oh, you have a vivid imagination, and they would just explain it away. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I don't talk about this. And then, yeah. And it would piss me off because there's times where we would move into a house and, the first couple months, sometimes the first 6 months, it's very nice and normal. And then after 6 months, that's when shit starts picking up. And the last house that I lived together with my mom in, there was one time where she's like, I think Sammy sees the old woman that used to live in this house. Sammy's a dog. And I'm like, what? And she's all, yeah, I think Sammy sees the old woman that used to live in the house because Sammy just kind of does this. Like slowly, like watching somebody walk by, and then she just kind of does this. And I'm like, like, what the fuck, Mom? Because I could never talk to her about the shit that I saw. And she's like, yeah, I think it's that old woman that used to live here. Because my mom had the clear knowing ability. I was just like, what the fuck? What the shit? So never had that actual conversation afterwards, but I was like, what the but she had the gift. Brian has the clairaudient ability, and my sister, I don't know, she's got like a mixture of stuff. So I got to be able to feel stuff and sometimes see it, but it was weird having a dog that was just like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this old lady walk by who's totally dead. So yeah, but that's cool. I'm glad you're able to talk to your mother about that. Like, my sister and I can talk about some things, but sometimes she's just like super resistant and like, no. And I'm like, all right, cool. Because that's her. My brother's pretty open to stuff, like talking about it. But then he's like, no, I don't have the gift. And it's like, you hear them. Like, you do, dude. You fucking have it, And he's like, no. I'm like, oh. So, But he is an empath. He'll at least acknowledge that. So there's that. It's improvement. So, yeah. Yeah.
I tried to talk to my brother, one of my brothers, about it before, but he's like, I don't want to talk about this. You don't want to talk about it. All you gotta do is just ignore it. Just ignore everything.
But here's the thing, though. Marvin is a twin, so he that's just, it's kind of like a standard rule. If you are, you're gonna have them. Like, that's just how it is. I've noticed that it's really common for twins to have gifts. Like it's almost built into you. So it's interesting, but yeah. No. Okay, cool. Yeah. Whatever. Mm-hmm. You can ignore it all you want. It still happens.
Oh, it's funny. You had mentioned the your brother having the audio, like he can hear it.
Or audio, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that actually happened to me like 2 weeks ago, where I kept hearing like somebody flickering their tongue.
I hate that.
Like it was next to me. And it was like for like an hour or two, and then I'm like, just like, I don't know what it is, but leave, and then it stopped. The next day, when I'm working out with one of my gym buddies is over, the one I call Bane.
Yeah.
But yeah, I start hearing that clicking noise again, but in the kitchen, and then I ignore it because I'm in the middle of my workout. And then I'm gonna say about halfway through, he stops and he's like, "You hear that?" And I'm like, "What do you hear?" Somebody's flicking their tongue, and I don't know where it's coming from. So then we're just both looking at each other, and then it sounds like it's between us because it keeps going.
Wow.
And then he has because he's gypsy, so he has his own set of beliefs and everything.
Romani, okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Yeah, I don't like this." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't like this either." All right, get out of here. And then we were like, "Let's just keep doing our thing." We were like, "I don't know who you are, but if you don't have anything to say, you can go."
GTFO. Yeah.
Odd.
Yeah. My stepmother is part Romani, and she does the bells thing too. And that's where I learned it from. And I couldn't understand what the bells are for. But like now I'm like, oh, that's her trying to keep shit out, but not actually saying it. So yeah, but it's a different type of energy. And I think of the stuff that I do as kind of more eclectic, because it's not like it's just one religion. It's like multiple stuff that I've picked up as I go along.
Yeah.
Like I've done like salt water in a bottle with crystals, like to spray an area because I needed to do this to cleanse it or energetically purge or whatever. I've done the whole Indian technique from India where it's the clear bowl with the salt and the water and the pepper. And I've done the saging, I've done the Palo Santo. Like, some people do singing bowls. I've seen that. But like, yeah, I've just noticed as time goes on, it's like, oh, this works, but this will work differently. And I understand it's because of different energies. It kind of makes sense. Like, because I can't do the same thing all the time. Like, it's like, oh,
I feel like whatever you're called to do would be the right thing to do for your situation.
And I don't know if it's because of that thing's beliefs or background or what it is, but like sometimes it's like, this is the thing and you need to do the thing that it can't stand to get it out or you know, or to, this is enough that it's like, no, I won't mess with this. So, but yeah, like one of my friends had to deal. I want to say, I think it's you, Mandy, where the dead person didn't like you because she thought you were a witch, but that was before you knew you were.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the lady.
Yeah.
Haunting my guest room. She lived
Yeah.
there. That's why she kept yelling at me.
Yeah.
Like,
Because she was convinced. Yeah. And you're like, what? You know, and that was before Mandy knew she was one, which was ironic. And for a while there, like my dad's mother, when she passed on, like she's with my sister constantly. Like she is her protector or guardian or one of the many on my sister's spirit team. And like she would just watch from like the corner of like the room. And like, you know, if we were playing with tarot cards, she's like, you know, because she's so Catholic, it's so no. But like, yeah, like it was very much like against her religion and she's not okay with it. But like as time has gone on, she's gotten better about it. And she's not as just like because she didn't get angry, she would just get uncomfortable. And she's like, you shouldn't be messing with this. Like, because I could hear her being like, don't touch those cards. Don't touch those cards. You know, but it's like, but she was scared because of witchcraft is bad, but it's not. It's just you know, yay Catholicism.
It's the intent that matters. That's
yeah, exactly. And that was the thing, is that like I've seen, you know, but like as time has gone on, it doesn't, like I don't see her put up a resistance anymore. And she's like, and I think it's because of, number one, because my sister does do like a prayer before she does any kind of tarot reading. And I think it's because of how my sister conducts herself is why she's like, I'm okay with it. So yeah. And it's like a prayer to the right. I'm not going to say specifically what saint, but it's to the right saint. And it sounds very Catholic when she does it. So I was like, yeah, grandma would be on board for this. So yeah, but it's interesting. Yeah. So, but yeah.
When
wow.
you and I were living together, it was interesting. Because like two of us it was like a giant like lighthouse on steroids.
It was.
It
was. Well, it was funny because here's the thing with both of them. The first time I met them, like don't get me wrong, like you're both very good looking people, and I'm like, why am I so drawn to these people? I can't understand it, because I would like stare at you guys sometimes, and I'm like, what's going on? And like, because Mandy has her own like light, but it's because she has gifts, and Marvin has his own light, but he also has gifts too. And I was like, I don't get this. And then like as time went on and I got to talk to you guys more, I'm like, oh, they're gifted. Oh, because you guys do have like a natural like glow about you. But yeah, it's interesting because the night that I met Mandy was at a New Year's Eve party. And it was just like I met her and it was like 10 minutes later, I'm like, I love this girl. I'm going to be best friends with her now. This is the end of it. Like, she's the best thing ever. Holy shit. I love her. And Ian's like, you know, he's like, oh, I'm glad you like Mandy. She's pretty awesome. I'm like, yeah, she's the best, dude. Like a long lost relative. Like it felt like it was like,
yeah.
And with Marvin, like we didn't start off on the right foot because of my mouth, but he worked past me being a shit. And like we were just like once you know we talked and like got to know each other, it was like, oh my god, it was a long lost relative. Like I feel that connection with both of you. And like, you know, I love you guys to pieces, but yeah, like it felt like there was like, oh my gosh, I've known you for so long. And it, you know, even though it's like bits and pieces of a conversation, it felt like, oh my god, I'm talking with a friend that I've known for all my life. It's so weird. So, but yeah, it's been interesting. But yeah, when Mandy was living with us, because she moved in with my husband and I at this house that I call the Agency Oaks house, and that that place.
Yeah.
It was okay in the beginning, and I'm not like, when I'm making these grunt noises, it's not like Mandy did anything bad or her and I had any fights. No, we didn't actually. It's just stuff got busy and shit got real energetically around the house. Like, and one time I had cleansed the house and I completely forgot about the garage. And like, you know, I talked to one of my friends about it and he's like, did you clear the garage? Because there's some shit going on in there. And I was like, no, why would I do that? It never occurred to me to clean out the garage, you know, like, well, you know, and he's like, no, energetically you need to, because there's some stuff. And I was like, hey, Mandy, about the garage. She's like, oh my God, you feel it too? And I'm like, what? You know, because it was like you would go in there and you want to get out. Like you need to get out of the garage as soon as possible. I think the longest I lasted in there was like 5 minutes. And that's with the garage door closed. Otherwise, you had to have it open because you felt it's like this weird claustrophobic run. Like you need, like it's almost something telling you to run. So, and it was.
You remember that when I used to live in that closet on the side where the washer was at?
Oh yeah.
It was just like that's that area where you're like, I gotta go real quick, grab the detergent and get it out.
Yeah. Where yeah, the like it was right the storage unit, right? It was near it, right? Yeah.
Next to the kitchen. Yeah.
Yeah.
It just always felt like there's something there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Deuces. And then and Mandy lived with us for a while. And it's just it was, man, there was just so many things that happened in that house. And then she left. And then there was still stuff happening in that house. And then like my sister spent the night. Marvin, I think did you spend the night there once? I think you did. When you came out to visit.
Yeah, 2 nights. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know how you slept. I can't remember which room we put you in. I think you were in the other spare room, so I don't know how that worked out. Did you get enough sleep?
Well, I mean, the first night I was just stressed from the whole flight situation. Yeah. I didn't get much sleep on that, but the next night was okay.
Okay. Well, and not only that, like we got you got rid of the rocks, the worry stones too.
So, yeah, I remember that. We did that before going to your place.
Yeah, and it's just been like so interesting. And then my sister did stay with us for a while, and then I don't know what was up with that spare room. Like it just seems like a lot of stuff. The other thing what was weird is that like the cats, Ginger would be downstairs with me while I'm on the couch. Jack's here and Dexter is buried in the blanket, and you hear running upstairs, and it's stomp, 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 stomp. And I'm like, there's nobody else home. What the shit is going on? But it was because there was a little kid that like stayed in the house. His name was Connor, and he liked to play with the cats too. So, because every now and then you would hear thump, 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 and then you'd see one of the cats like dart downstairs, and you could hear running, and then it would stop at the steps, and it's like, oh, okay. That cat is running really hard. It almost sounds like a human, you know, because cats can't really stomp that hard when they run. But yeah, that happened. There was a couple other things that showed up in that house, but yeah, it was weird. And then clearing out the energy in the garage was fun times. But yeah, it's interesting because after we moved out, like a week after we moved out, the ceiling collapsed.
What?
Yeah, the porch ceiling completely collapsed. Yeah, so we got out when we did, and then the air conditioning just totally shit. Like it died, and it had to be replaced. So like the house went to crap like a week after we moved out. So it was like, wow, it was pretty fortuitous that we left when we did. Because like, remember how the ceiling would leak on the porch, like the patio? It was bad, and it was like, hey, did they know? Like, I guess Ian never and his ex never reported the issue with the ceiling. So yeah, but it was just, that house was just so weird, and it never felt like, I don't know, like I never felt totally welcomed in that house. How about you?
Yeah, it was like it had
a temporary feel to me.
Yeah, like you could, I mean, you exert your will on your home, on your space, but there was still just like something was just still there, and I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like,
because you can't see it, you can feel it, and it's weird because like as I started doing some energy work, like there was this Native American that shows up that is female and male together, and that was cool working with it, but like that was the only positive thing that I could remember, you know. The rest of it was just like, okay, gotta help this move on, gotta help this move on. What is a demon doing here? How did that happen, you know? Or there's a fear feeder, there's an anger feeder, there's a pain feeder, and that was, yeah, like it was just different types of things that would just come in and out. So it was like, what the shit? And like put the barriers back up and they would be broken down eventually. So, but that's also one of the reasons why I've learned to be diligent about barriers emotionally and physically. So yeah, that's the other thing, is that I have to be diligent. I don't know if you guys have to be diligent about your stuff, but yeah. Do you, Marvin, have to be diligent about your barriers, or you're good once you set them in place?
Once I set them in place, it's pretty good. I haven't really, it's solid. And I mean, you know, like you said before, sometimes you have to tweak it a little bit every now and then, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
Like I told you, like 2 weeks ago, with the whole tongue clicking and all that. Like I don't know what it was exactly, but I'm like, you know, I don't know how you got in, but it was very interesting to have somebody else hear it at the same time, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, because
So I
it
just had to
gave us
tweak
some
it out.
validation that you weren't, you know,
Yeah,
yeah, that it wasn't because that's the other thing, is that sometimes you think that it is in your head, because you know we
yeah,
can't let fear get away from us and can create stuff. And that's the other thing, is that you can actually end up creating your own, from your own energy. Like
yeah.
I've done it. I've done it on accident, where I've created my own little fear monster out of my fear. So, and it did get ugly, but you know, it was able to clear it out. It just didn't, it took a little bit to figure that out. But no, I hear you. And it's interesting. So
I wish you would have seen his face though.
yeah, he's like,
Yeah,
nope, 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 with my nope rope. Yeah. I bet he was probably shitting bricks, because it is pretty scary, and I'm not really a fan of that. Would just remind me of Hereditary, you know? Hereditary, Marvin?
Oh, that movie messed
Yes.
with me so bad.
It's oh yeah.
I remember being so, because it's the same with my friend Eric. So he was over after a workout, so we ended up just watching the movie, having some drinks. He passes out 15 minutes into the movie, so he left me alone with that horror, and I was
God.
too scared to even get up to stop the movie, even though I kept telling myself, "I'm not watching this. This is," and you know I love horror movies, but that was on
It's
another level.
they
I
did a
sat and
very
I watched the whole thing, freaking out. Oh,
it's
and then the nightmares after that for like a day or two, or a night or two. Oof, it was bad.
no, they did a really good job. It is definitely a psychological kind of thing. And when you're gifted, you're like, fuck. Yeah, I can see some, like you can actually see some of it happening, and it's terrifying. Have you seen the Doctor Sleep one with Ewan McGregor?
Not yet.
Nope. No. Mm, mm, no.
Very accurate about astral projection. I will tell you that. That is definitely accurate about astral projection. They actually do it, and it's wow. I'm like,
That's the interesting thing about movies like that, though, that you can do research on that afterwards
yeah,
to see certain things, and they may show you how what they do for like protection or something like that. Something that you've never even thought of.
lot of
And then if you just take the time and research it, you can see how much of it is real, or is this something that can potentially help you later on?
yeah, that's true. There's like the bookshelf over there. There's like two shelves full of books, but like yeah, there's different books over there that actually have like different techniques of protection that I've gone over. And sometimes it's just like I've had it where I've just been attracted to like an article, and I don't know why. And I'll just start reading it, and all of a sudden, like, you know, what they're reading, what you're reading about is a piece of it, and then you'll have like an aha moment later where I feel like I'm guided to add more to it, and then I end up personalizing it for this is for protection. So I've had that happen. But yeah, have you had that happen too? Or I've had it where other people give me pieces of information, and then like like I guide it in. Does that make sense? But yeah. But that's cool. Like I'm glad I'm not the only one who's eclectic, that, you know, you pick and choose. And it's not the same thing all the time. That for me, it's not the same thing that works every time. Sometimes you have to like try a new thing.
Yeah.
Pretty much have to make it, you have to tailor it to whatever the situation is.
Yeah. And other times I've actually like I have messaged these guys too, and I'm like, hey, I just want your opinion on something. And then I try not to tell you, I try to give you as little information as possible, because I don't want you guys to just jump to the conclusion that I jumped to. And because I want to make sure that I'm not, you know, making this up. And like, I'll be like, hey, what do you think about this? And I think Mandy's done it to me too, where she's like, what do you feel about this? And I'm like, oh, blah, 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 blah. And she's all, yeah, your ball's accurate. That's what I thought. And I'm like, okay, cool. And Marvin's done the same thing, where I've asked him some questions, or I've asked Mandy some questions. I'm like, what do you feel about this? And then they'll just be like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm getting. All right, cool. I am not alone in this. All right, I'm going to keep going. So yeah, but it's, yeah.
It's like we went to the Alamo.
What?
We went to the Alamo. I think it was, right? We went to the Alamo.
Yeah.
And we passed by the doctor's tools and all that, the surgeons. It's that bad feel. You didn't say anything, but it felt really negative, and I didn't even be there. And then once I told you, you're like, I got the same feel when you had gone with Ian.
Yeah, and then you go by my husband, and then you'll be fine, because he projects this block for like 10 feet around him. And it was funny because when Marvin went with us to the Alamo, at first he's like, I'm not feeling anything. What are you talking about? And I'm like, oh yeah, you need to walk away from Ian. And he's like, what? And I'm like, just get 10 feet away from him. You'll be fine. He's like, trust me. I know it's weird. Just do it. And as soon as he got out of that 10 feet bubble, he's like, whoa. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And then he comes back. He's like, and I'm like, Ian's a giant shield. He just, you know, Bella Swan on everybody. I don't fucking know. Like, he does that shiz on his own. And like, and it's funny, but not funny, because like I have left the house. I've spent the night, you know, like in Arizona with family, or in Vegas dog sitting or whatever, and I'm not there. And poor Ian is like, I don't like the way this house feels. It's fucking freaky. And like, he gets nervous, and he'll like project his whole ward out there, and like he pushes everything out of his energy. Like it goes from 10 feet to 20 feet. And that's so he can sleep. But that's just his gift. So, but that's all that he does. He can't see it. He can feel it. But yeah, it's interesting. But he'll be like, I don't have any gifts. Okay, dear. But you can push him out. So yeah. Which is kind of nice, because I can tell you as a medium, when you're trying to go to sleep and then they wake you up. Yeah, so some, don't get me wrong, some stuff still did come through, but it wasn't nearly as often. It used to be like, you know, 3-4 nights a week I was woken up like that, and I'm like, whatever. But now it's like, oh, it's been like 5 months. Here you go. Thanks. You know, and I'm not expecting it. So, but yeah, that is cool. I do like the fact that you do set up the hours of operation, Mandy. I've had to do that too, where it's like, I'm not available between this time and this time. And I'm like, and I've been like, you can interact with me in my dreams, but you can talk to me, but not through me. I have to specify that every time. Like, you can talk to me, but not through me. Cause I'm like, not okay with that whole coming on thing. Fuck that. So this mine. I belong to this, so not yours. No touchy. Yeah, but is there anything else that you guys wanted to add to the whole protection and boundaries thing that we might have forgotten, or?
I would say going back to the people that we interact with on a daily basis and stuff like that. Just to remember that some people also have other things attached to them. So you
Yes.
have to make sure that that boundary is also set so that it doesn't jump ship or something like a pirate. Like
Yeah.
try to
Yeah.
attach itself to you.
Yeah, there are. Yeah. I've had that. Yeah, I've had that happen with that house where we would have people come in that had things attached to them, and then they would take up residency in the house. That happened a lot at the Agency Oats house. And I was like, who the hell keeps inviting these guys in, because I would have all these protection barriers up, but because the person was invited in and I wasn't putting up the barrier of, what's high.
It's like you're welcome, but anything else is like that stuff not welcome.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
If you welcome this person doesn't mean that you and the plus 10 can come along. Like
plus 5? No. Yeah. Or the plus 3? No, I'm good. No, I'm good.
Exactly. And then all 4 of them come in, but only 1 leaves, and then 3 stay behind. Like
yeah,
no.
You're like, oh, great, yeah. But no, you're right. That is true. Like, and that's the thing is that putting up boundaries is great. Putting up protections is a good idea, but yeah, the boundaries are very important. That you are specific in your boundaries, and you can always change them. You can always reword them. Something might work right for a week, but then after that week's up, you might get more clarity on what you need to add to what you're specifying. Do it. Like if you're guided to, I need to say this, then that'll probably be what you need to add. Because trust me, things look for loopholes. They look for contracts and they look for loopholes. And nothing. I hate to say this, but I'm gonna agree with somebody on this. Nothing should ever ask to be invited in. If it says just let me in or let me take over, don't. Because that's not a good energy. That's a bad energy. So, work with you, yes, but let me take over. Let me give you this contract. Let me in. No, you're not. You're not allowed. So yeah, I 100 P. So, yeah. All right. Well, anything you wanted to add, Mandy, or you're copacetic?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for doing this with me today. This went a lot longer than I expected. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But thank you guys so much for doing this with me today. I really appreciate it. And thanks everybody for watching this. I hope you guys have a great day.